It like with people with like obsessed with celebrity marriages, or like when this couple, like they constantly posted stuff on social media, they have to be happy when
It's actually
they're
true.
probably not.
Yeah.
I'm still tied up on Nick and Jessica. So. And Justin and Brittany. Okay.
Oh my
2001,
1999. Justin and Brittany.
1999.
I don't know.
I'm still
Where they both
the
wore
jeans.
jeans.
The
Yeah.
jeans. It still breaks my heart.
I know.
I'm still broken.
Jessica Biel, you step it up
Right.
to Brittany.
Jessica Biel, you'll never be Brittany.
Yeah. I'm kidding.
sorry.
I'm just kidding. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Social Exchange Project. This is your host, Shane-Laura Waldinger, and today we have a returning guest as a co-host, Tabitha Tatro, who is in the house. Do you want to say hi?
Hello.
Hello. From episode 2, everyone.
I've returned.
She's returned. And today we are both going to be sitting down with a beautiful, wonderful guest who is actually my own life and personal, my life coach, my business coach, my everything coach. Beth Crowell, do you want to say hi to everybody and introduce yourself?
Hey, yeah, I'm Beth Crowell and I'm the Hippie banker. Now, what I love about my business name is that I too get these little giggles and chuckles every time I say Hippie banker because they seem so divergent, but they do a really good job of really describing what I do.
Yeah.
So what I do is I do small business loan consulting and I do life coaching primarily for entrepreneurs and business owners. So it looks a couple ways. Small business loan consulting, I identified that there was a problem in the lending industry for small businesses in that those small business loans take just as much time, if not more, to process for a lender as the large loan requests. So if you're asking for $50,000, $100,000, I mean, to me, in many small businesses, that feels like a lot of money. But for lenders, when they're dealing with 5 million, 10 million, 15 million plus loan requests, it's actually pretty small. So when they have these two sitting in front of them and they have loan production goals ahead of them that are often tied to some kind of a financial incentive, which one do you think they're going to work on?
Right.
Right. They're going to work on the big one. And it's not no judgment, no shame.
They're just going to disregard the lesser loan. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's where their incentive is. And the small loan requests do take a lot of time for a number of reasons. They're also more high risk to lend to. There's just a lot of problems with it. So when I identified that was a problem, because I'm a former commercial lender, I felt like I could fix it. Mm-hmm. And so what I do is I help counsel small business applicants to get as prepared as possible for when they do ask, so that they have all of their financials put together. It's a good story that they're telling. They know what questions they might get asked, where their weaknesses are, so we can help strengthen them before they actually go ask.
Sure.
And then on behalf of the banker, I'm trying to do as much of their work as well. So I prepare a full presentation for that banker that has all of the analysis done for them already, has all of the ratios prepared, has as much done as possible. So ideally what happens is an applicant will go to a meeting with a banker. The banker will have the information that they need. All they'll really need to do is pull a credit report, and they ideally
it's easy and done.
It's easy, it's efficient. And the other thing it does is that small business loans, when actually any kind of business loan, the way a lender determines what the interest rate is, terms, fees, all of that is primarily based on risk. So if there's an appearance of a high risk project, their chances are they're going to be a higher rate, shorter terms, additional fees.
Sure.
So if there's an applicant that shows up to a banker's desk and really doesn't understand, maybe isn't necessarily prepared for the request, or there's lots of questions that the lender has that the applicant can't answer, that applicant is just going to be seen as higher risk. So that's going to get them a higher rate, shorter terms, higher fees.
So it's not just about the credit score, it's about everything.
Yeah, it's really, because it's a lot different. The commercial lending industry is way different than if you're going to buy a house or a car. Commercial lending, they say, is more of an art than a science. So when you purchase a car, you purchase a house, it's pretty straightforward. In fact, lenders have, when you're not for houses, but for what they call consumer lending, cars, motorcycles, RVs, anything like that, they have a rate sheet. And it essentially says, okay, if this is this person's credit score and this is how much they're putting down, they put the two together and they come and there's a rate. And that
Like
rate,
debt to income ratio also, they look at all those things, yeah.
not as much.
No, not as much?
Not as much. It's really, that comes into that determines if that lender is going to lend to that person or not.
Sure, okay,
But what really
gotcha.
matters to determine the rate is how much are they putting down, and what's that person's credit score.
Okay, so it's like if it's how much crazy am I willing to put up with versus how hot the person is. And then
Yes.
like you put them together.
Exactly.
It's like, I will put up with this much crazy
Yep.
for if they're this attractive.
Yeah,
Great.
Yes, and whatever that square you land on, that's what you better get out of it.
Awesome.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
welcome.
It's just like that.
I like to put people into boxes
Yes.
based
Yes.
on appearances.
She likes to
Right.
classify and judge.
Right.
That's just me.
Yes. But the reason is because there's a lot of laws around consumer lending. There's a lot of laws around residential lending that have been enacted, usually by the federal government, to put in place to make sure that everybody's getting treated fairly.
Right.
But when it comes to, and the same thing with buying a house, you know that you have to have an X amount down. The interest rate doesn't change based on whether you have, what your debt to income is or any of those types of calculations. It's loan to value and it's primarily loan to value. I mean, what your credit score, if you call a bank and say, hey, what are your residential rates on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, it's going to be the same for everybody.
Right.
So when you call a bank and ask what are your commercial rates, they can't tell
all
you that because
individualized.
it's all individualized and it's
Gotcha.
primarily based on
So there's a
risk.
need for this. And people sometimes don't even think that there's a need for this until they're getting further into their business plan or even past that point where they've already opened up their business.
Right.
Gotcha.
So the goal is it's really two things. It's really meant to help small businesses increase their access to funding. So it's you don't have to depend on a big loan request to get your lender's eye, or you don't have to know somebody at that bank or know somebody that knows somebody at the bank. Well, which is, I guess, maybe kind of what I am, but you don't have to rely on any kind of connections or any or to have a big loan request. Because a small business applicant should have equal access to financing.
Sure.
Just because they're not a big player doesn't mean that they don't deserve financing as well. So it's meant to really bring the two together, but also it's an understanding that women, people of color, people where English is a second language, they already are at a disadvantage when it comes to applying for loans.
Right. And they have to work even harder to make sure everything is tight and perfect.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So part of what I'm trying to do is really impact those
I say they,
communities.
but it's me. It's me.
right. And so, I mean, this really came together through part of the struggles that I had when I was working as a commercial lender is that I didn't really feel like what is my purpose? What am I really impacting here? And I really tried to focus my efforts on small businesses and in particular women's access to financing. So that was the market that I really went after, and I wasn't able to generate the types of loans, dollar volume that were really that I felt good about.
That was meaningful to you.
It was meaningful to me, but also that, I mean, I can't, it's those loan volume goals that I was talking about that, a commercial lender needs those big fish. I mean, you just need them. So, and plus I didn't feel like I was making an impact, the kind of impact that I wanted to. And because prior to that, I was working for a nonprofit where I was helping businesses by giving them really low interest rates and helping them start out.
So this is where the hippie part comes in, right?
This is where my, yes.
And part of like what I love about you, because when I started corresponding with you back in November about me just trying to open up a business, and this podcast was one of those ideas that we chatted about, and how you said, I really want to focus on businesses that was going to give back to other people. And I forget what you called it, but it was like giving back to the planet and to the people. I forget what the term was that you used, but I was like, man, not a lot of people say those types of things. So that to me is already super attractive for like, what you're trying to promote through the hippie banker.
Right.
And so can you tell us more about what that means?
Yeah, it's a concept called conscious corporation. So
Yes,
it takes
that's what it is.
Yep, it takes it a step beyond a socially responsible organization. So I don't exactly know where this concept began, but I had listened to a podcast from Mary Jo Pulio, who does a lot of she works a lot with metaphysics and spirituality, and she had on as a guest the now owner of my Insight Timer, which is one of the biggest meditation apps. And he he leads his company as a conscious corporation. So it's the understanding that you need a company, in order for it to survive, needs to be focused on profits, because if you don't have profits, your organization is going to die. So it's not that, you completely forget about the financial end of it. You have to be aware of that.
Right.
But that you put equal placement on profits, the people that are your customers that work for you, anybody that's impacted. So you're concerned with profits, people, and the planet. So
that's what it was. The 3 Ps.
3
Yes.
Ps. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And really, it's the idea that whatever you do, it's of no harm. So the way you run your company is of no harm. And so, what my experience had been through the years that I've been working with small businesses is that so many people start businesses with some kind of a feeling like, well, I want this business to be successful, but I also want to give back. So I want a portion of my money the profits to go to this organization.
Like a nonprofit or a charity or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always been in big support of companies that want to do that and people that want to do that. I think that's important. But what happens often is that people get into business and there's so much pressure on the profits that they end up losing the people and the planet side of it.
Yeah.
And there isn't always a lot of support out in the business world for people to continue on feeling like they're supported in focusing on people, profit, and the planet.
Yeah.
So it has to be a well-balanced act between the 3.
Yeah.
For it to be something that is going to be self-sustaining, but then also like a thriving business.
Yeah. So because in order for you to do something good, you have to have the money. Often you have to have the money there to support whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah. Kind of like how where my current day job is across the way at CoLab.
Yeah. And this is why I thought this was a really good marriage for you to be here, is because you see entrepreneurs come in and out all the time.
Yeah, and that's one of our main goals at CoLab is to be like, hey, we understand, like that's like, because we're like a kid company of Pablo Management, and their big thing is people and planet over profit. Like it still has the 3 Ps, but the people and the planet come first.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that we always try to do to like maintain that is we have our rates pretty low for entrepreneurs too. And we offer all these free classes. Like our program director, Adam Akala, has been, Adam, but not everybody who's listening to this does. He's been
famous. What are you talking about?
He's so famous. Don't tell him.
Hi, Adam.
I love Adam.
No, he's super cool. And he's been amazing at CoLab. He's been putting on like these amazing like lunch and learns, which you've been a part of, and they've just been so beneficial. And we try to keep our rates like really low and like give them as much help as we can. Because it's not just about here's a place to work and go. Right. And same with Elaine too, our community manager. Like we are all a team to try to like help people not only like get their business going, but like help them maintain it to grow out of our space and to like help people find what they want out of a business world.
Right.
And that's why like when we collab with like people like you, it's like, heck yeah, like we all want to be part of the same thing. And another thing that Elaine started in this space that I was like, oh good, I really wanted to do this anyway, was we started buying more like planet conscious like stuff for this space.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Like we have compost and like all my stir sticks are like the bamboo ones that are like not as environmentally like bad as like the little plastic ones. And they're compostable. I always, cause
turtles love it.
Yes. I'm also a raccoon monster, and I'll like go and I like leave signs everywhere. Like don't throw this in the recycling. Don't throw this in the compost. Like if I see somebody throwing paper towels in the recycling, I dig them out like the little trash goblin I am, and I throw them into the compost because
took a little weird turn.
Paper towels are not recyclable. They are compostable, but they are not recyclable.
But those efforts often take more money. I mean, they're more expensive to buy those types of products than you could run down to Walmart or Sam's Club and get way more for less expensive. So it's making a commitment to do that, and so it's the equal. So if you were just focused on profits, you wouldn't buy those things.
No,
right?
No,
right. Yeah.
Or we'd have our rates be like super high.
Right. Like
some businesses, like we were researching when we were starting to open. I wasn't part of this team because I came out afterwards, but I was being told about it. How like there are some businesses that do what we do
Yeah.
in like New York and Chicago and stuff that
Like in the bigger cities.
yeah, that have like $600 a month for what we offer. And it's like, yikes. Which I mean, I get, but also yikes.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So it's my kind of long-term goal is to help people start businesses that have these philosophies so that we can create this huge cohort of people that want to do what's right for not only their company, but for the people that they affect and our environment. I mean, I think we're seeing all over our country the need for care for all three of those things in a responsible way. So, I was listening to the last Democratic debate this past week, and I think one of the questions of Bernie Sanders was, is it immoral for a company's owner to make billions of dollars? And many of the candidates kind of skirted around it, but Bernie said yes, that it is immoral. And I think that's him really, and of course it's his whole platform of trying to decrease the
huge
gap.
gaps between
Him and Warren, I think, are big on that.
Yep, they are, and that's when you think about all of the corporate influence on our policies in the federal government, it's not the conscious corporations that are affecting public policy. And we're getting way off on this, but it's if you're cooler than I am. So I had read an article, and I think it was, I can't remember if it was published in The Economist or where it was published, but it said that that an individual's effect on public policy is literally zero. So one person by themselves has no effect. Even you think about just their vote has literally no effect on public policy and how it's created and what's actually gets enacted. So if we as individuals have no power to affect public policy, who does? Well, we see it, and it's the companies that have the influence on our government. So who is doing that right now? It's these big corporations that are focused on profits and getting more for their companies. So if we can create the other side of that, this huge cohort of these amazing conscious corporations that are equally concerned with people, profit, and the planet, imagine the influence that these corporations could have on our local leaders, on our state leaders, and on our federal. It's just essentially taking, do we need to rid our government of the influence of corporations? Not necessarily, because if it's for the good of all people, then what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's an argument out there. Somebody can tell me the argument why.
I'm sure we'll get some.
I'm sure there's going to be some reason why. But so I guess in some ways, is it easier which one is easier, to remove the influence of corporations on public policy, or is it to support more corporations to run their businesses as conscious corporations, so then they can use their influence to enact public policy that is good for everybody?
Because you're essentially wanting to have like that spark of change that will grow.
Yeah.
And that change that really can only happen with more and more people who are like-minded and wants to do something about it.
Yeah. Like somebody once asked me, well, if, with your loan consulting business, who would there be a corporation you wouldn't work with? Probably. If you're an oil company, probably not that interested in helping you. If you're a pharmaceutical company, probably not all that interested in helping you. But if you're an alternative fuels energy business, yep.
Sure.
If you're
changing that narrative a little bit and that norm.
Yeah. Because that's, what I do with my company, I plan on running it as a conscious corporation myself. So if I'm able to establish locations throughout the state of Wisconsin where people are helping other people start businesses and get equal access to funding, financially, how it could affect me, I want my needs met. But then, just like we were talking earlier, that there are so many, if I would feel a little awkward trying to support conscious corporations and help this entrepreneur network. And I'm just stockpiling all this money to do what with?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a long-term vision that if I'm blessed enough that my company does grow grow, that I'll then be able to support organizations like the Red Letter Grant and help more women start businesses and help more people do the good work
and
that
just open up more opportunities for the right people.
Yeah.
Beth Crowell, everyone.
Woo. Bravo.
We have her husband clamping behind the scenes. So one of the things that really drew me to you, and when I had started working with you, is not only the expertise that you have, obviously, in banking and finances, but the concept of fear. And I know you spoke about that a lot, because that is something that really deters people, or not just business people or entrepreneurs, from making decisions and good decisions. And staying true to who they are and what they want to do, but fear in all aspects of life. Can you tell us more about what that looks like?
Yeah, I was, so I met with somebody, I guess maybe even to back up a little bit. So I went through a divorce in 2014. And after that happened, I had acquaintances and friends would want to talk to me about my experience, because either they were in a tough marriage that they weren't sure that they wanted to stay in. And so I often would have people come to me just kind of talking about my own divorce, and my ex-husband and I have a great relationship, and kids have come through it relatively unscathed. And so I happened to be talking to an acquaintance of mine because she was struggling with in her own marriage, and this was after I launched my own business, and she's like, geez, Beth, you have gone through so many changes in these past few years, because we've known each other for a while. She's like, how did you do it? Haven't you been afraid? And I thought, well, yeah, but it wasn't anything that consumed me. So I was still able to make these decisions. So 2014, I got a divorce. 2016, I quit a job that I had been at for 10 years that I was good at and I was successful with it, to take on a new job that I really wasn't sure was going to be the right fit for me. 2018, I married my husband, Jeff, after only knowing him for 10 months.
She's looking at him right now.
Yeah.
For any listeners who don't know what he is.
How long?
9.5, 10 months. And then in 2019, I quit my job to launch at that time was going to be life coaching business without one client and really with no prospects. So all of those things are scary for a lot of people to do. And people will often not take those steps. So how was I able to do it? Well, the thing that's interesting about fear is that, and there's this amazing guy, Richard Barrett, who writes about the stages of personal development. You could call it soul development. And I'm not going to get too far into it because that could be a completely different discussion. But
we did have a quick discussion about that, and I love that. Yeah, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
That changed me.
It's really, it's really impactful because fear comes from your ego, and your ego has a really important job in the first stages of, from when you're first born until you're probably through age of like 18, 19, because your brain isn't fully formed. Your ego has a really important job to keep you safe. And the ego uses fear to keep you safe. And that's emotionally and physically safe. Plays a really big role. But after that...
It's like fight or flight.
It is fight or flight, but then instinctual fear, but then there's also learned fear. And that's what I talk about is that, like a car accident. A car accident happens, and if you miss, it's a near miss, you swerve, you get to the other side of the road, and you're like, holy shit, what just happened? Because you just instinctually avoid that threat. But learned fear is when you start to reminisce about it. You start to replay it over and over in your mind, and then you start to get more and more fearful, so that perhaps maybe next time you go to work, you avoid that intersection. And you start to get more and more afraid of it, and you start to think,
like your trauma brain then.
You start to avoid stoplights in general, but maybe you start to think about it and spin on it so much that maybe you just decide you're not going to drive anymore, and then all of a sudden you're never leaving your house. So that's that kind of learned fear. So as you go through these other stages of development, you have to release your fear and let your ego know that no, you don't have to protect me as much as you used to before. You don't have to. Anytime you see a threat, you don't have to protect me from that, because I'm now fully formed and capable of making my own decisions, and I'm going to start taking more risks and go towards more growth. And that's what I think a lot of what we talked about.
Yep.
So a part of it, and have you ever seen the movie The Babadook?
Yes.
Oh yes, I have seen that.
Yes. So that movie is it's a representation of her guilt. So the Babadook is her guilt. But the same can be said for fear, is that so what happens is the Babadook, she ends up defeating it in her bedroom.
Spoiler.
Oh, shoot.
Just kidding. No, go ahead.
She ends up defeating
on
it.
Netflix. It's been out for years.
Yes.
Just stop.
Deal with it.
Right.
But like
she ends up defeating it.
Yeah.
And then instead, it doesn't go away. It just goes into her basement.
She brings it like cat food and goes, here, shut up.
Yeah. But then she mothers it. She's like, it's okay. It's all right. You're going to be fine.
But that is management, right?
Yeah. So your fear never goes away. You just have to learn to manage it and not let it just consume your whole thought process. So in fact, I wrote about it not too long ago, saying that fear should be a gentle reminder, not a forceful demander. So it's something that reminds you that there is a possible threat, but it doesn't. So anyway, if we don't learn how to effectively identify when fear is coming in, then it really is going to stop us from growth. But what I feel is my biggest defender against fear is what I believe. So when I made all of those changes in my life, so many of those changes were based on the belief that I am resilient and I will figure out a way to make this work no matter what decision I make. So when I got my divorce, my marriage wasn't like, I wasn't chewing off my arm to get out of it. My job that I had at the time that I quit, the 10-year job, I wasn't miserable. I wasn't like hating life every time I drove there, but I knew that it was time for something different. When I quit my job and started my business, it wasn't, I guess at that time, looking at my husband, because he was there with me with this, is that I was fairly miserable. So that one I really needed to make a change with. But I believed that no matter what decision I would make, that somehow I would make it would turn out fine. Yeah. And that if my intuition is telling me something, it's never going to lead me in the wrong direction. So my intuition is never going to tell me to go someplace that I shouldn't. So if I can lean, and I would reflect back of like all these times where, that little voice inside your head is telling you, So and even that is a decision of okay, is this my intuition? Is this leading me to my best self? Or is this fear? And that's something you have to learn to identify it. And sometimes it's, do you feel it in your stomach or do you feel it in your neck? If you feel it where you feel it in your body can be connected with where it's coming from.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
like if it's in your brain, it's probably the Babadook.
Yes,
but if it's in your gut, it's probably like your best intention.
Yes.
Ah.
Yeah. Yep.
You should stop at Babadook.
Yes.
We're going to get so many royalties off this movie now.
Right.
Because this podcast
Please don't sue us, Mr. Babadook. I support your life choices.
So yeah, it was a lot of just like me figuring out that when I did not listen to my intuition, I started going down a bad path. But when I started because I remember, so I had gotten between my ex-husband and Jeff, I had gotten into a really, really tough relationship. It was really challenging. And I remember when I finally got out of it, I remember telling there were a number of things that I did, but one of the things that I did is that I told myself, because I had known how often I wasn't listening to my intuition, that I was going to make my decisions based off of love and not fear. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of books that have been read that the more we can stop fear from running our lives, the more joy we find. And that fear is the opposite. Love is the opposite of fear. And it's not love versus hate. It's really love versus fear. So all of those, what we associate as negative emotions or feelings are all associated at the core with fear. Mm-hmm. So I made it my point that my decisions, I was going to put faith in my intuition and know that was going to guide me where I needed to go. And holy shit, it has. It's incredible how once I released that, and I told myself I wasn't going to date. I date for a year, and I met Jeff after about 5 months. But there's a story about that too. But I did all of these things based on love. And the other thing that I hear people talk about too is there's there's no pain, there's no gain unless there's pain, right? Or that you have to suffer in order to get the good things in life. And I think that's flat out bullshit. So we don't have to experience all these terrible things in our lives in order to learn the lessons that we need to learn. So, in a way that manifests with people running their business, or they're just running their lives, is that they feel like they've got to tough it out. And you just got to, if you're not working hard, if you're not putting in 60 hours a week.
Like if you're not suffering, you're not growing.
Yeah, that you have to suffer. But I really believe that, and this is I guess another part of my belief system, is that the universe doesn't first go to pain in order for us to learn something. Like that's not the first choice, but we're not conditioned to listen to those little, like the way that love shows up to help us learn things. It's we won't only listen to it until once it hurts bad enough. So when we'll listen, we just need to listen to that little tap on our shoulder instead of waiting until we're getting, flattened by the steamroller to make a change in our lives.
Really interesting, because that's literally what happened to you. So you're saying that your marriage wasn't something that was so miserable for you to be in before you left. It was just that tap. And same with your career, and that misery shouldn't happen all the time. I mean, it can, and for you to make changes, but it doesn't always need to take place for you to be proactive in making better decisions for yourself.
Yeah, like get there before the steamroller comes.
Yeah. And I think the reason many people do that, I think there's a reason that people do that, not the only reason, but a reason, is that there's so much judgment out there from people. So we feel like we have to justify all of our decisions so we get the acceptance of other people.
Yeah.
So
especially internet trolls. That's who we want.
All right. Damn them. Stay away.
We want the full support of internet trolls. But
yeah, I mean, so many, because, the worst thing you want to hear when you're contemplating leaving a shitty relationship is, well, have you tried this?
Oh my God.
Or what about this? Or, you guys were so great together. That's so awful. Yeah. Well, I was just talking with somebody the other day that came to my office, and we were chatting, and she told me that she was going through a divorce. And I was like, so is it congratulations? And she's like, yeah. And I said, well, congratulations. I'm really, really happy for you. It doesn't, and associating with failure. I mean, and there's a whole nother.
I feel like when people say that, it usually comes from like family and friends, because it's like, oh, you guys are so great together, because they feel like it's best for you if you stay because they've seen the times when you were happy, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, like they're not there for the hard times.
Yeah, right. And I think to a certain extent too is that when you see these, what look like these perfect relationships, when they work, it gives you more confidence and you a better feeling that yours is going to work too.
So it comes from a selfish place.
Yeah, it like with people with like obsessed with celebrity marriages, or like when this couple, like they constantly posted stuff on social media, they have to be happy. When
it's actually true.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I'm still tied up on Nick and Jessica. So. And Justin and Brittany. Okay.
Oh 2001.
1999.
1999.
I don't know.
I'm still
where they both wore jeans.
Yeah. It still breaks my heart.
I know.
I'm still broken.
Jessica Biel, you step it up, right? To Brittany.
Jessica Biel, you'll never be Brittany.
Yeah, I'm
sorry.
I'm just kidding. But yeah. So you're coaching, so obviously you do the financial portion of things, and I know things are changing a little bit with the current coaching, and you're going to just morph it all into one. But the life coaching part of it is relationships, are all these other elements that really isn't segmented by work. I mean, you're still your own person, and you make these decisions based off of the concepts of who you are, like your authentic self. So whatever you have in your marital relationships or your friendships, your personal life, it does bleed over to your business decisions and vice versa. Is that true?
It's absolutely true. I tell people that like the foundation from that your business is going to grow from is you. So if you're not stable, if you don't have a strong foundation personally, then you're building your business on a shaky foundation. And so part of the work of being an entrepreneur and a business owner is getting really good at personal development and making sure that and trying to make that foundation as solid as possible. Because the things do bleed together. I mean, it happens in work. I mean, why should running a business be any different?
Yep.
So, your work suffers from, the baggage that you bring into it. It can happen. So why would it be different than if you own your own business? So, so it definitely, they're definitely connected to each other. Yeah.
You're the common denominator.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah. And the thing is that, people tell you like, oh, nobody ever tells you what it's really like to own a business. And I think the piece, because, I've been around entrepreneurs for 15 plus years and I've seen their struggles.
How is that possible? You're only 21.
Yeah. I know. Isn't it crazy? I was a little phenom, little 6-year-old Beth.
So 15
a tiny clipboard that's all glitter and like a giant pen. Like,
That was meant to be a compliment. It turned really weird. Okay. But 15 years of experience.
Yeah. Working with business owners is that, so, this is sliding off of me. So it's huge. It's a really great place if you want to kind of rip yourself apart personally, and put yourself back together. And relationships can do the same thing. But it's going to challenge you personally. It's going to expose any of your insecurities about your self-worth because you're tied to your business. It exposes your ability to be resilient, to reevaluate what are your values, what are your beliefs. I'd been talking to people for years about, so I've always been interested in personal development and spirituality. I was analyzing my own dreams as an 8th grader, reading Carlos Castaneda as a high schooler. And I've been in and out of seeing multiple therapists and reading books, and it's been a huge part of me. So and I think that's why people were drawn to me to talk to about their problems, because I had all this knowledge that I could share with them. And so, holy crap, I lost my train of thought.
One of the questions I did have for you, though,
Yeah.
because you brought this up.
Yeah.
And if you have that train of thought, definitely bring it back. But one of the questions I did have is the life coaching and personal coaching aspects of things. I've always been a proponent of it. I supported that and I love that.
Yep.
But I myself wanted to go into counseling.
Yep.
How would you, I guess, decipher the two?
Yeah.
And when would be a good time for somebody to use a coach versus a counselor versus a coach?
Yeah. So on a personal level, because of who little Beth was, I did think about becoming a therapist when I was younger, but a series of events landed me where I didn't get into that, but it's gotten me where I need to be today.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. So I'm like, it's fine. But that is a part of me. I see the difference between somebody seeking counseling versus somebody seeking a coach is that a coach, from my perspective, and counselors, you can correct me if I'm wrong out there, coaches are really helping you identify where you are now and where you want to be, and holding you accountable, keeping you focused, kind of keep somebody on your. It's like an athletic coach. You're here with your performance and you want to get to a higher level, helping you along the way and holding. A big part of it is keeping you accountable. Because of my past, I can bring in some of these like a little bit more hippie, spiritual, personal development stuff that I've learned over the years. Therapy, and I have hired a life coach. I hired a life coach myself to start my own business. But like I said, I've seen multiple therapists across my life, and hugely beneficial. So much of my personal development started because I started seeing a therapist. I started seeing a counselor, because they do an amazing job of connecting what's happening in your current life with what's happened in the past. And that's the reason that's so valuable. And it is something that I will sometimes, this idea that I'll bring into sometimes when I'm coaching clients, is that throughout our whole life, things that have happened to us, they cause these emotional wounds. And if you think of it in terms of physical, we have cuts all over our bodies from different things that have happened to us that have injured us emotionally. And what happens is, just like any other kind of wound, it starts to scab over. But if you continually are digging at it, it's never going to heal, and it's constantly going to hurt anytime you're touched there. And it could be that this person is saying something to you that isn't directly isn't directly hitting the wound, but that's how you take it. But anyway, that we have all of these wounds all over ourselves, and so if we can figure out what the genesis was of when we got that wound and heal that experience, then if somebody goes to touch us there in the present, it doesn't hurt us anymore. So that's what I see as the extremely beneficial. The benefit of working with a therapist is that the therapist can help you identify how those wounds got to you and help you heal them.
I see.
So I'm
it's
not doing
unpacking
that.
all of that emotional baggage.
Yes.
And making it, obviously healing from it.
Yeah, healing those wounds. So then when these challenges come up in the future, they don't hurt you anymore. So that's where I find therapy really beneficial, and it's helped me tremendously. For me, moving forward in my life, because I've done so much work on my childhood, I don't know that I would ever reach out to a therapist again. But I'm even because of this new, the loan side and growing this, I'm contemplating reaching out to, I don't know necessarily a life coach, but a coach to help me go forward.
Sure.
Because I would love some help with accountability and to keep me focused and keep me moving forward. That's
kind of
where
a separate thing, but I think a lot of people ask all the time, much like they do for doctors and therapists, like when you're not feeling, how do you refill your cup?
Yeah.
So do you go to a coach? Do you go to a therapist? Do you go to a doctor? And so thank you for answering that, because that's huge.
Yeah. Yep. But that's a difference. That's how I see the difference in it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Did that thought come back yet?
It's cool if it
I'm
didn't.
gone. Oh, no,
That's fine.
It all went. It's gone.
It's fine.
So for this next segment,
Yes.
I thought it would be kind of fun to get to know you on a different level.
Okay.
Because I've only ever known you through a business professional. I mean, we've hung out,
Yeah.
You're obviously, you've given me some really good life advice, and I meant it, like every word, when I said that you really changed myself and Addie when you spoke about not forcing things, like a square into a circle, as you will. And that really meant a lot to me. So I do obviously take that as a personal thing. But we met really through me wanting to build my business. And so a lot of the interactions that we've had have been very professional.
Sure.
And I thought it would be kind of fun to do a Would You Rather. And don't worry, they are very neutral. There were some I had some pretty bad questions that I prepared.
Keep it in your back pocket.
I know. Really?
Do it.
But you have to answer them too. We all do.
I will do it.
Okay.
We all
I have no fears.
Let's do it then.
After hearing about fears, I have no fears.
Come at me, Babadook of fears.
All right. Go in the basement. Go downstairs.
Eat your cat food.
Right.
All right.
All right. Well, so
Okay.
I just prepared a couple of questions.
Ready.
And elaborate as much as you can, I guess.
Okay.
All right. So the first one is, would you rather? Would you rather have a very stressful job, and I think we know this, a very stressful job doing something you absolutely love, or a low stress job with something that you just sort of like?
Oh, high stress that I love. Yeah. Yep.
Same.
Yeah. Because I've done the low stress. In fact, so when I was at the bank doing commercial lending, I thought, well, maybe the answer is that I'll just take a lower stress, easier job. So I quit at doing lending and I went to be a credit analyst. And for a while I loved it. Put my earbuds in, so I listened to music all day, and I was just like going crazy on Excel spreadsheets because I love Excel spreadsheets. And so I was just doing number crunching all the time and listening to music and laughing with my coworkers, and every hour on the hour we would do squats and push-ups, and it was just nuts. But it was completely unfulfilling. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel that. I would do the same. I would take the high stressful job that I love.
I feel like in this room, especially with us three, we are the only three that would probably take an 80 an hour a week job doing something we love and not getting paid as much, than doing a 40-hour a week and be like, I hate it. I just don't like it.
It's owning your own business. It just never shuts off. I mean, like Jeff can attest to this. Like I wake up in the morning and I'm thinking about, like, when we start a conversation, like, oh, I was just thinking about this because I've been laying in bed thinking about it. Or, in the evening, I start to think about something like, oh, what about this? And so it's
like the entrepreneurial brain, it never shuts off.
Yeah.
Like I'm always texting Addie and whomever at like 2 a.m. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a cool concept. We should try this. Like I'm always working too. So.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay.
So would you rather have your dream job with little time off, or would you do something that you don't like as much and have a lot more freedom with your time?
Definitely the second one.
Ooh, really?
Freedom with
Yeah.
time?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Because
Time is everything, isn't it, though?
Yes, and that it's kind of this what I have been contemplating with my business is that, I'm doing coaching. I have a great group of people that I'm working with, and it gives me a lot of flexibility. With the loan consulting, that could become a much bigger thing. And so I have been thinking about like, okay, do I really want to run a big company that's going to require all of my time, or do I want to keep my Fridays off, which I've been doing, and starting my days at 9:30. So I mean, so there is kind of that conundrum of what do I want right now?
Like what's more valuable to you?
Yeah, and it could be a short, like the way I'm kind of looking at it is probably a short-term thing. I don't plan on running a company for my whole life, but short-term maybe, just because I think it is such a valuable service.
It's a much needed service that
and people will benefit from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I feel like too, like I that makes me change my answer, because thinking about it, if you do something you love but you don't have the time to recharge from it, you're going to end up hating it.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yep.
That was kind of what I was saying about this podcast too. Like if I switch the gears and make it something that I feel I have to do, like I'm completely married to it and I have to do this or do that, I won't like it.
Yeah.
Because I love it so much right now for what it is, So I think time also is another thing, like having time spent with loved ones, having time spent for yourself, and not necessarily like I'm going on vacation and like being on a beach. It could just be having more time to just go do something that like recharges you.
Yeah. Because I mean, like sometimes like it's like, I will in my office, because I have a little office space, I will take an hour and I will maybe close my eyes for a little bit, get a little bit of a nap if I'm tired, or I have the flexibility to, if I have time off between clients, I can meditate for a half hour or do something, that it's not this high pressure where I'm getting to work at 7:00 in the morning and coming home at 7:00 at night. And then I'm not seeing
Where
my
do you
kids,
think
I'm not
this
seeing my
came from,
husband.
that we have to do 40 hours a week? Monday through Friday. I mean, I know it's different. It's changing a little bit now too, where things are maybe a lot more flexible with the scheduling and things. But where did that come from? Because I feel like adults still need a nap.
I'm not an expert, but from what I heard, it was like a cutback from when it used to be like you had to work like 6 days a week and you only got one day off. And like
so
the unions, like way
labor
back
unions,
when, labor unions were like,
Sure.
So I hear now that they're trying to change it, which is a question I have for everyone. Would you rather work a 5-8 week or a 4-10?
4:10.
I would do 4:10.
Same here. I would 100% rather work a 4-10 than a 5-8.
Yeah.
Yep. You need more. I think you need more than 2 days just to recharge and do stuff.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree.
Like there's weddings and things that you want to do with family, and you can't
Yeah.
do it in 2 days. So we're going to change that. Not only are we changing the narrative of conscious corporations, but we're going to change this as well.
Yeah.
Mark our
4-10s. You hear me? 4-10s.
Who are you talking to?
The universe. The empty void. 4-10s, you hear me?
Do you hear me out there?
Right.
Echo.
Anybody? Yes.
Okay. Would you rather have a pause button in life or a rewind button?
Pause.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pause.
Because,
Yeah. More time to savor it.
yeah, more time to savor things, but also like I choose to not, if I did something that I was like really embarrassed about, like I do on a daily basis, but I would rather be like, that just brought me to where I am.
But what about like a rewind button for, experiencing times that you had with loved ones that you don't have right now?
Ooh, that's a really good thought. I think that plays into it where I would rather savor the time that I am given rather than go back.
Okay.
But that's just me personally.
Yeah.
You say the
because
same?
I think sometimes if you take enough time, I think emotionally you can kind of get back to those moments and make those connections where you can't mentally pause your life. I mean, it's just kind of so, but I think you can get yourself to a place where you can almost put yourself back in those moments and feel it again.
Interesting. That's actually very true.
I've always wished there was this really dumb movie when I was little called Clock Stoppers that like it was a watch where like everything like went like yeah, he knows. Where like everything just kind of like went like micro and you were just like going really fast. And I was just like, God, that'd be so nice. I could just like pause at like 2:00, take a nap, and then come back. It's fine.
So the whole world pauses.
Where like they go like really, it's like how you ever see like those movies where like somebody drinks like way too much caffeine or like somebody like does something really wrong and everybody's moving like super slow, but then you're moving normal. That's kind of what that is.
Okay.
So like everybody else is like moving super slow, but then you're just like,
Like enjoying your time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a good answer. I'll have to think about that one because I kind of struggled with that one a little bit.
Yeah.
So, would you rather have to always say what you are thinking about, both good and bad, or be mostly unable to speak your mind when you want to?
Oh, the first one.
Would you agree, husband, Jeff?
Husband Jeff. That is your new title.
Husband Jeff.
Capital H in husband,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yeah, because that's being if your thoughts and feelings can match your actions and what you say. I mean, that's the ultimate in being authentic.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
And the reason you don't do it is because
And
you're
serve all
afraid
the
of something.
consequences that come with it, you mean?
Yeah,
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Listen,
yeah.
my face already gives away everything I'm thinking. So I might as well just stay with it.
So we really should be asking you questions.
I mean, everybody. I mean, what would you choose?
I don't know. I think probably the first one too.
Yeah.
Because I think I do that already a lot. And I think sometimes I get in trouble with it because I think I have tact when I'm saying it, but they don't always think I have tact. I'm like, I just need the truth out there and I just want you to know what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, sometimes you get in trouble and people don't, you get consequences of people not wanting to, like, I don't know, deal with you. So.
Have you ever had a dream where you've wanted to like scream or say something and you couldn't?
Yeah.
Oh,
I hate it.
it's the worst. Have you not?
I have not.
Okay. I would. So are you more of a person where you have a hard time expressing your thoughts and feelings?
Yes.
Okay. That's why we dream these things.
Oh.
Yes.
wow.
And that's why you don't. is
I just
because-
speak my.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have those dreams because it's representative of our inability to fully and completely express our thoughts and feelings.
Whoa.
And it sucks.
It does, but
Those
that's
dreams
so weird.
blow.
That's
They
why I
do.
always
I
get in
hate
trouble
them.
though, like because I'm always saying what, and then I feel anxiety about, wait, I shouldn't have said that. So sometimes I do think I wish maybe to some extent I wouldn't. So I don't know. It's a hard one.
Or you say
And I didn't
things
know that.
that you don't mean to say it that way, but that's how
Yeah.
it comes out. Like every time poor Shane goes, meat wizard for Jesus, I'm like, that's not what I meant. But at the same time, it kind of is.
This is going to be our go-to reference for every single problem that we need to solve in our relationship.
Listen, where's that meat wizard for Jesus? I need him.
Yeah.
I need them.
So you would probably be just as truthful as you can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
So last question.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you rather lose all the memories you've had or that you've made so far in your life, or lose your ability to create new ones?
Holy crap.
I know. Is there a none of the above choice?
Oh, I wonder what deep.
It's do or die, and this is going to be on the record for life.
Oh, what's the deep philosophical underlying of this one?
I think that. I think it's more so just seeing if you appreciate more of where you came from in your past, or like looking more towards your future. Yeah. And being optimistic about what hasn't been done yet.
I think I would have to choose the adventures in the future. I would want memories in the future.
Same.
Have like 50 first dates with Jeff.
Yes. Oh my gosh, our first date was so awesome.
What'd you do? Am I allowed to ask?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, we met online. Yep. I
In
know.
2020.
I know, crazy, isn't it? Yeah. So, but our first date was at the Lakely, and we got there at 5 and left at 11, I think. Yeah. Yep.
Was it there when there was a man with a giant beard playing the banjo?
No, there was jazz playing that night, I think. Yeah. Yep. That was our first date.
That's really cute.
So you would recreate so you're saying you actually would prefer the future. So I guess that does make sense for the 50 first dates.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
Drew Barrymore.
we've had so many great adventures post that first date that I want to keep making more.
Cute.
Oh
On that note.
Buzzing.
So, I mean, before you go today, is
Yes.
there any kind of advice that you would give to anybody who do want to start their own business? Obviously, you could probably have an elaborate consultation with anyone, but any kind of ending advice that you would give to anyone wanting to start their own business?
I think the biggest key for me in running my business all comes down to what I believe. And it's belief in just what my beliefs are about how the universe works, and the belief in what I'm doing. and that I so strongly feel that when we want to do things that are of benefit to people and the planet, that the universe will conspire to make that happen.
Yeah.
So I coach people, and I want to help people with their businesses because I really genuinely want to help them. And I think I have something to offer that will help them. So I guess, and it's been panning out that the universe has been supporting me, but it's also extremely challenging personally as well, which has allowed me to grow even more as a person. So really, really, my advice would be to just get to be best friends with your beliefs and challenge them, but
stay true to yourself.
Yes.
Give back.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
On that note, I thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
This was so much fun. Yeah. I learned so much about every single genre of life I can think of. And thank you so much. And also thank you, Tabby, for being here.
You're welcome.
You're extra cute today.
So are you.
We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.